If your header navigation looks like this, where you have multiple rows of links, it might be costing you clients. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to clean it up without losing your most important pages. So basically, the reason too many header links could be costing you clients is that an abundance of links equals an abundance of decisions that website visitors have to make. And when people have too many decisions to make, they're going to be overwhelmed and they're going to leave your site. So we want to make the experience of using your website as easy and seamless as possible. So we really want to limit the choices we give people, especially right off the bat. Like when they first land on your website, no matter what page they're landing on, they're going to see your header navigation first. So if that's the first thing that they're seeing, we want it to be really simple and straightforward and not overwhelming. Because if potential clients can't find what they're looking for quickly and easily, they're going to leave your site. So the solution here is to organize your header navigation or your main navigation so that it's simple and easy to understand. So let's talk about how to organize your navigation on your website. Step one is you want to identify your website's goals. So what do you want people to do when they land on your website? You should identify a primary goal. What do you want people to do most? A secondary goal and a tertiary goal. And then once you have your goals identified, step two is organize your pages according to those goals. So a little cheat sheet here is that your primary goal, that action that you want people to take most, should go in your header button. So the button that appears in the upper right corner of your website, that's where that primary goal action should go. Your secondary goal, that secondary action that you want people to take, those are the links that should go in your main navigation. I'll get into this in a little bit in more detail. And then tertiary goals, these links should go in your main navigation and your footer navigation, and you can kind of decide based on the information I'm going to share with you. Now let's talk about some examples here to really explain this a little bit better. So as I mentioned, your primary goal is what you want people to do most on your website, and that action should go in your header button. So on this website, the primary action that we want people to take is to book a call. And so we added that into our header button right here in the upper right corner. So on Squarespace, it's really easy to customize this button that shows up. First of all, you can enable the button right over here by toggling this on, and then we can edit the button right here. So we can choose what we want it to say, and the text on that button should always be a call to action, reflecting that primary action that you want people to take. So for you in your practice, this could be book a consultation, book a call. If you don't have consultations, maybe you link to a contact form for folks to get started with you. If you sell courses or products, maybe the primary goal that you have is for people to buy a product. And so this button might say shop here and link to your most popular products, something like that. So basically, your primary goal goes up here in your header button. As I mentioned, your secondary goal reflects your main navigation links. So on this website, the secondary goal is I want people to learn about my services and my specialties and about my business. So I have my services listed up here, I have my specialties listed up here, and I have some other offerings. But it's creating a lot of clutter, so we'll deal with that in a minute. But we know that we want all of these links in the main navigation because they relate to that secondary goal of the website. Now our tertiary goal, the third most thing that we want people to do on the website, we can either choose whether we want to put those pages in our main navigation or in our footer. And really this just comes down to, is there room left in the main navigation? So if there's no room left, then those links can go down in the footer navigation. So once you've decided where your pages are going to live, it's time to organize any pages that have stayed in your main navigation area or header navigation area. Now I like to limit header navigation to 3 to 6 main links, but basically the rule of thumb for me is keeping your header navigation to one line. The minute it goes down to 2 rows, that's when I try to condense. So in this case, we need to utilize some drop-down menus. We organize and synthesize these links into categories to make this header navigation a little bit more easy to understand. So to add a drop-down in Squarespace, I'm going to click plus next to main navigation and scroll down to drop-down and then type the category that I want. So I'm going to make a services drop-down first. You can see that that added that to the main navigation, but we're going to drag and drop some pages so that they nest in the dropdown. So I'm going to put all my service pages in the services dropdown. Okay, so we can see already we've got simplifying happening. So I'm going to expand this page preview and see that we've reduced our header navigation down to 2 rows, which is an improvement. And so now we have a services link that drops down to list all of our services. Much easier on the eyes, but we can do even better. So these 3, anxiety counseling, premarital counseling, and executive coaching, are my specialties pages. This is where I created pages to go into detail on the types of counseling that I do and the types of coaching that I do. So I'm going to add those pages to a drop-down as well. Okay, so now when we expand our page preview, we see that we have 1 row of links and our specialties are nested really nicely under specialties and our services are nested under services. And we have 1 row that nothing is jumping down to a second row, so our organization is complete. And remember, we decided that all of these links corresponded to that secondary goal of finding out about this business. So we're going to leave the rest of these up in the main navigation. However, if things were still looking cluttered or if one of these pages wasn't quite as important, we could move that out of the header navigation and have it only linked in the footer navigation so that people can still find the page, but it's not one of the first links that people see. Now from here, we can organize the main navigation from left to right. I like to organize main navigation links according to kind of the most important pages on the left to least important on the right. And again, most and least important kind of correspond to those goals. So again, one of my goals was to have people learn about the services. And so I actually want the service menu to show up first. I want that to be the leftmost link because we read left to right. So I want that to be the first thing people see when they're looking at the menu. So I'm just going to click and drag that up. So that's first. And then I actually want courses to show up after that. Specialties are important pages, but I want to put those product or service pages first to get eyes on my services and products. So from here, this is an order that I could feel good about. Now I want to answer some frequently asked questions. So the first one is, what if I have extra links after I've done that organization process? So I added in some more links to my main navigation to show you this example. So let's say you've done the organizing and you're like, oh, I'm still getting 2 rows. I really want to clean this up more, but these are important pages. So first thing I'd say is try to fit things into drop downs if you can. If you can't, if it doesn't make sense to, and you have a home link like this, I would move home out of the main navigation because on any website you can click the logo to go home. So that's enough of an industry norm at this point that most people know to click the menu to go to the home page. So we don't necessarily need that home page in the main navigation. So that's one way to reduce links. And then if the link in question absolutely needs to be in the header navigation, let's say the blog, we really want that in the main navigation, we don't want to move it out, then I would consider moving a different link into your footer navigation. So in this case, let's say the blog absolutely needs to stay, but the FAQ isn't quite as important. So we're going to move that out of the header navigation and link it in the footer. Just like that. Now the next question is, can I have 2 header buttons? And the answer is that's not recommended. Because, again, this goes back to the very beginning, we don't want to overwhelm your site visitors. So too many options in the header navigation is going to cause decision fatigue and overwhelm your visitors and cause them to leave. So the simpler the better. Also on Squarespace, there's no option to add another button. There's really only an option to add one singular button, and that's for your benefit, so that when you're making your website on Squarespace, you don't accidentally do something that might get in the way of user experience. So one button on the header navigation is the norm, and we recommend sticking to that. And then the final question is, can I link to a section of a page in my header navigation? And the answer is yes, and I would recommend using anchor links. We do this all the time on websites that we design. So let's say you wanted to create a menu or a drop-down underneath the About link and list a link that says qualifications and have it jump to the certifications or qualification section of your About page. You can really easily do that, and I'll show you how. So again, we're going to add a drop-down to main navigation, title it About. I'm going to move the actual About page underneath this. Now, one note is that the navigation title is going to show up here, so we might say, instead of just About, since we have About as the drop-down menu title, I would probably change that navigation link title on the page itself. So I might say About Me or About Us, whatever makes sense for you. That's the first step. Next step is to go to the actual page where you want the link to land. So on the About page, we talked about the qualification section. So I want the link to land here. What I'm going to do is click Edit Section, Anchor Link, and type in qualifications. Just type in any word that makes sense to you. Usually I like to title it according to the place that I want the jump to land. And then I'm going to click Copy Link, Save, Exit. Underneath that page, I'm going to click Add Page, add a link, and then paste what I just copied. And then I'll title it Qualifications. So this is what's going to show up in our drop-down menu. Click Save. And now we have an About drop-down that will then jump to that particular section. So that is a really great way to organize your site as well. So when it comes to organizing your main navigation on your website, remember that there's 2 steps here to start out. Step 1, identify your goals. Identify a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary goal. And then organize your pages according to those goals. With your primary goal going into the header button, the secondary reserved for your main navigation, and tertiary reserved for main or footer navigation wherever there's room. And then sticking to the rules of thumb of having 1 line of links in your header navigation, synthesizing even more if any of the links jump down to a second line or a third line, keeping between 3 and 6 links up here, main links. So in this case we have 5. And then use anchor links whenever you want to link to a certain section of a page. And there you have it. So if you need some help designing a website for your therapy or coaching practice, our Squarespace templates come pre-designed and ready to use. Just add your content and photos and then launch. There's no need to start from scratch. We'll bring the top-notch design and you bring your clinical expertise.